Okay, I was just talking outside with regards to the other one.
Yeah.
And that's another hard-hitting, well, you followed up to another hard-hitting one. For me, the first time I've seen that guy, Tim Roth, Made in Britain, was that an inspiration? For
yeah, well, excuse me because I've got a terrible memory. What's his name, the director of Made in Britain?
It was Mike Lee, was it?
No,
Ken Loach.
Ken Loach.
One of them gritty ones.
Yeah, one of them. I like all the gritty stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Dave very much like the same, the actor with the skinhead and all that. Yeah. Dave's fantastic. He's one of my best mates. And me and Dave have spent the last probably 15 years hanging out with each other and that. And he's a fantastic actor. So. Yeah, sorry, I forget the question about the
well, it's very intense. I mean, and my second question was, there wasn't much dialogue for narrative, but I think you used sounds. You kind of, you know what I mean? It's
I think sounds is a very important thing to evoke emotion in people, and also because me and Dave, we shoot our films off our own back, what we earn from working in a pub and Dave working on building sites and that. So we don't have a massive budget. It's just our money, and that. So if we start throwing loads of dialogue into things, then we start complicating things with having really good sound production. And we were lucky enough to have a good friend of mine, Mark Schofield, on board to record a lot of the dialogue and the sound that happened. But when you don't have much money, you've got to work to your limitations, and so. We had to, well, we didn't have to, but with the script and all that, it was best to work with, with just emotion.
Well, yeah, I mean, you didn't need to say much because the guy was so intense and his internal anger and frustration that I thought, and then build up to the climatic scene, which, I don't know how, I mean, the uncle seemed to have the power at the end, with, over Adam.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a story after to
No, that's it. That's all there is to it. So make what you will from it, really, type of thing.
Was that a Bible in his car as well?
Yeah, there was. The Testament was in the Bible, and I don't know. I just randomly throw things in like that. Not to diss anybody's religions or anything like that. I just throw those random things in there. And having uncle at the end, it leaves it open for everybody to think about it, to come up with your own conclusion, instead of having like we were talking outside, instead of having, to quote a friend of mine, your typical Anglo-Saxon middle, beginning and end. With a short film, you only have a certain amount of space to give people something, so just give them a snapshot of someone's life, a snapshot of a space, and let people think. Let people brood on it and come up with their own answers, type of thing. I mean, I probably have a completely different thought on the film than the majority of the people in the audience, and that's so it's all about just thinking and just taking it on board, and just whatever you come up with is whatever you come up with.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Bible for me was significant because at the end, he almost looked like a high priest.
Yeah.
And also with Adam and Eve, the name.
Yeah.
I thought there was some significance to, the first man, the first woman, and the uncle kind of, they're on their knees praying to him. That's what I got out of it. But I think, I'll throw it to the audience because I think it's going to be quite a lot of questions about the quite intense film, which is really, really good. So I'm going to throw it out to anyone I can see. Yes, a guy in a white t-shirt. Sorry, I don't know.
Were you just saying then where you equate it to like a religious thing? From what I got through with some of the quotes, nobody touches me anymore. Was there some sort of like a child abuse there, which led to the drugs, which relates to the uncle, the way he sort of took it down to him? It was as if they were like children again. Yeah,
well, there may well have been of some sort of legacy of family abuse, and my point of view on Adam on the film is Adam sort of trapped in this legacy of family abuse, and that's written on the thing, and he's abused when he was younger. That you may not think he was abused when he was younger. I thought he was abused when he was younger, and and he's just carrying that on now. Dad's disabled and he's in the wheelchair and stuff, and nobody's touching him anymore, and he's trying his best to carry on that whole family tradition because he doesn't know anything better, he doesn't know anything else, type of thing. But that's what I get from it. So it's what you get from it is it maybe something different. I mean, drugs are just sort of drugs are mentioned slightly at the beginning, and that with them smoking a pipe and that. But you know, drugs may not be included in their whole life. It's just, and that, you know, we saw that mother's sitting down in the basement. What's gone on there? I don't know. What do you think's gone on there?
I got a friend who does a bong every morning before work, but he ain't crackhead. So it's just because he wakes up, I have a porridge, he has a bong.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just any other questions here? Oh, the guy next to him.
Did you use any lighting or anything like that?
Yeah, we did. We didn't use a massive amount of lights because we had no money. We had a good friend of mine, Stuart, who was the DOP on it. He came up from London and he brought a bit of kit up with him that we hired, but nothing spectacular. A lot of it was, natural light.
Have you just using the? You know,
yeah, well, with that shot with Adam there, we were outside my parents' house in Everton, in Liverpool, and we had the street lights, but the street lights were a little bit too dim, so we just threw some sort of light up there. The DOP threw some sort of light up there, and it did the job with the gel on it, type of thing. And that, but he knew his job, he knew what he was doing and all that. He's fantastic bloke, and everybody who was on it knew the job. So we ended up with spectacular. The majority of it was natural light, and it was just, you know, the DOP knowing how to use the camera and.
You've done it, it shows.
Yeah.
I mean, well, like I say, from the intense actor to the camera work and stuff, it's quite a very intense film. Which again, I said Leonard Walker did, you know, another great one. Any more questions? Oh, the guy next to him.
You mentioned before that your pieces are generally based on sound to create the atmosphere rather than it being wordy as such, and I thought that you captured the intensity of the abuse of the person fantastically. Have you always worked from that perspective that sound creates the atmosphere in your pieces, or did you discover it through discovering that words too much can overcomplicate things?
Well, no, because writing is a very difficult process, and hats off to anybody who writes and that, because it takes up so much time. So myself personally, it's a bit of a cheat, and just to dodge the dialogue and that, and just to there's the image. I've got this image in my head, and let's, you know, that's the image that I'll put down on paper, and then trying to then complicate that with dialogue, to me is quite difficult, because it's a really difficult process. So instead, it's just looking at something and thinking about the sounds and stuff, and trying to draw people in, and that, if that makes any sense.
I mean, for me, see the heart attack. I mean, it's like the heart beating, and then you got the police, which obviously the danger. Then the kind of clock alarm, which to me was like alarm bells in his head, thinking, what's going on here?
Yeah, well, I didn't think that at all.
Yeah, that's what I mean. For me, it's completely. It kind of. I mean, as an actor, that, you know, it made it so intense and so simple, but so effective.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like his whole head was sound.
Yeah.
And it just changed at every scene.
Yeah.
So
that's it. Well, that's quite good. Just being stuck in someone's head, and just being stuck in their moment and feeling their emotions and taking it all on board. And that, I think, it never really ever, when working on a project, go out there to try and push a story or push anything. It's just like, I think that's fucking cool.
Interpretation.
Yeah, that's it. I shoot the fuck out of that's brilliant, and if you get that thought out of it, I get that thought out of it, that's awesome.
Well, that's art, isn't it? Subjective.
Yeah, that's it. Everything is subjective, so if you think it's crap, well, you know, it's crap. And that, but at least you're talking about it.
Trust me, as an actor, you can't please everyone.
No,
even as a performer.
You can't please everyone.
You can't see me over here, I don't think.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Gina, I know you very well.
I'm fine, thank you, Chris.
Are you okay?
It was quite enlightening for me to see a very natural production, a very strong production. I found the concept disturbing, but hats off to you for going with your own style and working with your constraints, your financial constraints, because it means you're doing something real. One of the things I'm finding, I'm recognising that a lot of filmmakers are trying to compete with Hollywood and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You clearly didn't do that. And I actually found the lack of dialogue really works, because a young man in a situation like that wouldn't really be conversing with a man who's got a mask on his face and a mother who's out of her head. So I actually thought the lack of dialogue was deliberate, and I thought the physical communication, the sound communication was exceptional. So I just wanted to really, celebrate.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's just about. A lot of people look up to making Hollywood films and see all the action stuff that's going on and all. That's fair dues, completely just buzz off it, do what you want to do, and as long as you're making film, that's absolutely awesome. And that's fantastic. But I just like to take my time and just make stuff, and I'm little bits for me, really. Without blowing my own trumpet, I make it because I enjoy making it. And I'm a bit rude to the audience, whereas I turn around and go, "Ooh, well, make your own mind up about it," and stuff. It's for you to make your mind up, which is quite rude to an audience, but I was like, I make it because I...
Well, I think in some... Oh, sorry, Jay.
The actor, is he an exceptional actor? Is he a Liverpool-based actor? Or
no, that's my best mate Dave Hart. He's based down in London.
Yeah, brilliant.
And he came up to shoot it up in Liverpool. Adam's our third short that we've made, and Dave's acted in more, and we have our own little production company between us. And he's a fantastic actor, absolutely brilliant.
I mean,
he let me shave his head as well, which was awesome.
He made an estimate, a few cuts on it.
Well, I actually thought they were sort of like meant out scabs.
Scabs. Scabs.
I mean, for me, the aeroplane, when he's having a smoke and he's just beating his girlfriend up, is that significant to when he looks at the holiday at the start? If I could take escapism.
Yeah, well, there was meant to be an aeroplane noise over when he's sitting having a smoke, and Eve's dancing away because she's got a little bit of freedom. Yeah. She very rarely gets her freedom, so she's enjoying her freedom and dancing about. And Adam was meant to be watching a plane going over, and I just jibbed it off because it looked a bit shit. So I just had him sitting there smoking instead, and that. But yeah, it's all about getting away. Getting away and just
But he looks at the price and thinks, I ain't gonna afford that. So I'm stuck in his rut.
Yeah. Tenerife, £700. That goes to real. Nice.
But probably that's much for the weekend in real nowadays. Any more questions?
Yeah.
Oh, at the back. Sorry.
Yeah. The character Adam, was it any way influenced by Robert Carlyle's character?
To be somebody.
Did you speak about that?
No, not at all. But I started noticing that once we were editing it, and then like someone mentioned before, the earlier ones, Thingy Britain.
Made in Britain, yeah. Tim
Made in
Roth,
Britain. Tim Roth, Made in Britain. He's very similar. It never ever crossed my mind, but yeah, as soon as you see Tim Roth Made in Britain and Robert Carlyle as well, it's very, very similar.
Well, I think the one Robert Carlyle, he was in Cracker. I think the episode was called To Be Somebody, which referenced to Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Hence the end. Yeah. Got a guy there, the bird.
Oh yeah.
I'm with him.
I'm getting heckled. No. The idea of escape, and you saw him, as you said, looking at the holidays on the travel agents. Did it ever cross your mind about the economic system and how there can never ever be an escape?
No, never.
No,
No, honestly, Neil, I came with you, but no, I never ever put any deep thought into anything and all that.
Okay,
just
well, this
really
this is the ideas that came to me from watching it about you will never ever escape. Everyone dreams of it, but you can't. You can go anywhere in the world.
But you'll never escape.
Everywhere's been discovered.
No, it's a good point, but I never thought about it like that whatsoever.
So, if you go to a paradise, and there are paradises, but you need money to enjoy them.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think, for me, escapism's in your head, and if you found paradise in your head, you don't need the money.
So he needs a lot of therapy.
He does, but he can also just need help. That's not just therapy, I don't know. But for me, the economic situation now doesn't mean people aren't happy. people don't need escapism holidays. People just might need a cigarette.
It's just getting political, isn't it? Or just made a fucked up film, that was all. Really.
No, you made a film that people talk about, which is why we're here. You know, it's great to, you know. Any more questions before we?
We've got Chris, let's move on now.
Oh, sorry. Well, that's not. Well, thank you, Jed, for
thanks. Thank you.
Another great film.
Cheers. Thank you for your time.